shows that there's one person here. So is the hat straight? There we go. Yeah, so a little bit early. And hey, everyone, wait for a couple people to show up here. And if somebody could send me a text to make sure that I am actually receiving them, because when I first did my test, I received chats no problem. And then I did the dual stream with Slow 49. And he could see the chats, but I could not. So it looked like the settings were all there, and hopefully I haven't screwed things up, because I certainly do want to see the chats. I am prepared. I have my glass of cognac today. It is very good. So we'll get to the thing. Today's topic, what we're going to be speaking about, is, are we alone in the universe? And yes, I'm sure that's something that everybody has thought about and has talked about, and maybe we can have some interesting discussion. And it's one of those interesting things. Now I see 3 of you are here. Hello, but again, I do not see any chats. Now this is concerning to me. Chat filter. Okay, I've switched to all messages. Let's see if that helps. This was the same sort of issue that I was having before, and I don't understand this at all. Anyone? Okay, all of those. Live chat is on. Welcome to chat. Ah, there we are. Crooked Cat is there, and Fro is there. Thank you so much. Okay, this works. Excellent. Excellent. So again, like I said, today's topic, we're going to be talking about, are we alone in the universe? And believe it or not, I have 2 stories that I'm going to share at some point during this discussion. I always like to have a personal story or 2 about any topic that we might be sharing. I do, hey Tony, I do promise that the stories do not involve medical experiments on board a spaceship and sore body parts. One is an okay story, and the second one is actually pretty wild. Hey Matt, how you doing? I'm glad you guys came down. So, here we go. Hey Slow, thanks for coming in. Let's start this topic. First of all, let me start by saying I'm pretty sure everyone will probably agree that we are not the only living thing in this universe. So let's separate for a moment things like bacteria and viruses and microbes and things like that, because I'm pretty confident we're going to find those within our own solar system. We're probably going to find them on Mars, and any other, maybe some of the moons of the solar system, probably not, maybe in my lifetime, but certainly we're going to find those. So let's forget that and let's talk only about intelligent life. I'm sure of you all, good time to eat a donut. That slows my man. Now, it has to be a non-alien donut, okay? Now, I know some of you might be thinking, or you may have heard that, there are aliens running all along this, that are already here, and they've been here for years, and they're down, and all due respect to that family of reptilians that lives down the street from me and lurk in their grasses that they don't cut, so we'll forget about them. But, I'm sure you've all heard about the Fermi paradox. If you haven't, just give me a little bit, a no, I haven't, and I'll be happy to refresh people on that. Because yes, reptilian elite, that were always my favorite aliens. You have to remember that I'm old enough to remember the original Star Trek episode when it first came out in real time. And one of my favorite episodes was, of course, the one where Kirk has to battle the reptilian alien on the planet, and he makes this, he puts together all these chemicals and makes a cannon, and he wins the battle, and that was kind of cool. So anyway, for those of you that aren't aware, the Fermi paradox, a physicist, very famous physicist called Enrico Fermi, who worked on the Manhattan Project. In fact, he was very instrumental in the splitting of atoms and creating a machine that would actually do that. Went out and basically said, with all the planets that could sustain life, and I believe the astrophysicist's name was Drake, came up with this equation and basically figured out we have so many stars and we have so many planets, and some of the planets are this and it's going to be that. Came up with this huge number of why we haven't found any aliens. And that becomes a great question. So I'm going to state my position, and then we can open this to some discussion. Do I believe that we're the only intelligent life in the universe? No. Do I believe that possibly Earth has been visited either in person or by some sort of probes from other alien existences? Yes, highly possible. Do I think that aliens are constantly buzzing back and forth from this planet? No. I don't think so. I've watched all the science fiction. I love that, but I don't think so. And the question is, again, where are they? Now, we've been sending out radio signals for many years. We have radio telescopes. Haven't heard anything. You might remember there was the famous WOW signal. I believe it was somewhere in the mid or late 70s. Please correct me, I don't know exactly when it was, but people that were monitoring radio telescopes suddenly got this great blip, and it was like, here it is, that's it, we got the message. Well, it never came back, and there's been a lot of reasons of why, what has happened with that. Some say it was radio signals that have echoed from our own signals. And there you go. Thank you, Fro, 1977. But again, nothing back from that. There's been other theories that have come out which have talked about everything from they don't want to answer us, to they may have reached. I like the one about the filter theory, that all civilizations go through this sort of a great monumental filter, and they don't get past it and they get destroyed, and that's kind of an interesting one as well. I did watch a very interesting video some time ago that basically was saying if you took our signal, how powerful it is, how far it has traveled out into space, that we've only covered something like 2 or 3% of our own galaxy, which sort of kind of says, hey, you know what? Maybe we haven't come. Irving is from outer space. Fro, you have to behave yourself. Okay, you have to behave yourself. We are trying to make this as an intellectual, and don't give Canadians a bad name. We're going to try and have some half intelligent. There we go. Well, this was partly why I started with this as my first solo topic that we were going to do, and why I'm having a nice cognac, because again, we need this sort of thing. Now, has anybody out there experienced anything that they would say was unusual? Or I have, and I will share that story. I'll give everyone a chance to kind of tell me if there is something they have. And then I'll tell you my first story, which again, all my stories are true. They're 100% true. They're 100% first party. They're not a friend of a friend of a friend of somebody who half was a friend that told this story. So here goes with this one. At the time, I was living in a city about, we'll talk in time, about a 35-minute drive north of Toronto, largest city in Canada. And I was driving down the major north-south highway, which is the 400. There you go. 2004, saw 5 different color lightning strikes during a tornado warning. Yeah, that's cool when they do change colors. And one day we talk about lightning, I got a story about that. But anyway, so I'm driving down. It is, I don't remember exactly what time of year it was, but I don't think it was summer. I'm believing it was probably spring, is what I'm thinking. Now, just so you understand the orientation, I'm going south, so west is to my right, east is to my left, and it's earlier in the morning, maybe about 9:30, 10ish, and I'm driving south. And what do I see down in the south sky but this big, bold, spherical light? Single light, quite large, sitting in down, and it's not moving, not going anywhere. And I'm driving along, of course, not trying to get into a crash. Irving can appreciate this. And I see this light. There it is. It's not going left. It's not going right. It's not going north or up. It's not going down. It's holding its position. And I'm driving and I still see it. And I'm driving and I still see it. Now this goes on for a good 15 minutes. It is there. It is stationary. And of course, we all know flying things aren't stationary. Here comes the spoiler. When I get to about, just north of the city, maybe about another 10 minutes or so, what do I see? Yes, it was a plane. The angle it was coming at, with its running lights on and the sun reflecting on it, because it was sort of kind of traveling towards me, but the optical effect that I saw looked like a stationary light in the sky. And for about a good 10, 15 minutes, I thought, hey, here is my UFO kind of experience. That was story number one. I'll share story number two a little later, which is a lot freakier and a lot cooler story. But back to our topic here today. Are we alone? Something I want you all to think about, and this is something that it's probably my preference of the whole Fermi paradox. Like, where the heck are they? Now, if you think about it, and again, I'm gonna quote the generally accepted numbers. We're not going to debate this. We're not going to cut hairs or anything like that. The planet is supposedly, universe is something like 13.5 million years old. They're starting to question that right now. Anyway, Earth is something like, I don't know, what is it, 4.5 or 5.5 billion years old. And humanoids have been around for a couple of million years. That keeps getting pushed back a little bit. And modern humans, Homo sapiens, supposedly around for a couple of 100,000 years. I remember when I was a kid, that number was closer to 100,000, and it got bumped back. Now, here's the interesting thing. In those 200,000 years that we've been humans, when have we had the capacity to actually hear anything from outer space? Maybe 120 years, when we've had radios and radio telescopes. That's even less, let alone computers or things like that. But let's be generous. Let's say the earliest radio transmissions that we started doing, in the 1920s or so. So, let's call it 100 plus years. Now, 100 plus years, that is nothing in the whole span of all that we've been here, right? That is absolutely nothing. So, is it possible that an alien civilization tried to contact us maybe 200 years ago? Or 500 years ago, and got no response because we had no way of knowing that they've contacted us? Or the reverse, we're sending out signals and maybe they're going to a planet where the people, the intelligent beings there are hundreds of years behind where we are, or for that matter, hundreds, if not thousands of years ahead of us, and maybe don't use the same forms of communication, or look at us and say, hey, that's just primitive, silly creatures that are living on this planet, and we're not going to waste our time with them. So I kind of think we're talking in such a narrow window, and we're talking about, a huge expanse that we call the universe. let alone our Milky Way galaxy, which, as everyone knows, we kind of live out in the suburbs, where our nearest stars are, 4+ light years away. If we were in a denser part of the solar system, we might have stars that were significantly closer. So we don't have that. We have that tremendous distance in that, and it may just be simply a fact that we think, hey, we're looking and we're finding, and we haven't really found. There's also the thought that, well, again, I've watched all the science fiction, and it'd be great to travel at past the speed of light and all warp speed, and you know all how the stuff goes. But if you believe Einstein that the speed of light is the speed limit of the universe, that's not fast enough to get anywhere pretty well, with any speed. And we may be in a situation where we're kind of stuck where we are, and our space exploration may be limited to relatively small, and other civilizations may be in that exact same boat. I've heard that theory as well. Now, yet people still swear that they've had alien contacts. Where I used to live, there was a small town, and a lady there claimed to have been abducted 54 or 55 times, I don't remember what, in her lifetime. Now, was it a coincidence that this person ran a shop that sold like New Age stuff, crystals and amulets and things like that? Not making a value judgment, but she swore 50 plus times she was abducted by aliens, and begs the question, why her and why so many times? As the great astrophysicist Carl Sagan used to say, extraordinary claims need extraordinary proof. I happen to be a believer in that. But I will share my second story, which to this day is fascinating. And I have guesses as to what happened, but here it goes. At the time I was working, this is when I was doing my shows on the Canadian Shopping Channel. And from time to time, I was doing the Showstopper, which was a series of shows that started live 7 a.m. in the morning, and the last show went from midnight to 1 o'clock in the morning, and then I would go home. By the time you unmiked and got all your stuff, so it's probably about 20 after 1 or so that I'm getting on the highway and I'm coming home. Now, there was an east-west toll highway that was built, Southern Ontario, the 407, and I would take that until I connected to the northbound. That would be the 400, and I would go home. I was living north of the city at the time. So I'm driving along. I am tired. It's been a long day. I'm perfectly sober. Haven't had anything to drink or anything like that. I'm driving home. By sheer coincidence, I was listening to Coast to Coast, which is the Art Bell show about paranormal stuff. And they weren't talking about any sort of alien stuff. I forget the topic they were talking about. But I'm watching. I'm on the highway. I've got my cruise control on. There's nobody else on the highway. It's late at night, and off I'm going. I remember thinking, oh, I'm only a few kilometers away from my turn off to go. Next thing I consciously remember, I'm looking around and I'm saying, where the hell am I? I should have reached this stop by now, and I'm driving. I don't recognize anything. And I see signs which were indicative of the end of this 407, a good 20 kilometers past where I should have gone. And I only recognized that because I had just a few months earlier been on that stretch of road taking my son to a hockey game. Otherwise, I wouldn't have even known where it was. And I'm thinking, what the hell am I doing here? Of course, I pull off the road, I stop, I check my time. It's about whatever the time would take for that to happen, 25, 30 minutes or more, or so, more or less, of lost time that actually went. Now, what happened to me, I don't know. I did not fall asleep, or I would have probably driven off the road. I am guessing it was some sort of a hypnosis, maybe watching the white line on the road, and I was just kind of following along, and no car came out. I was on cruise control. I was following the road. I did not crash, but this actually happened. I looked there and I went, I this time was lost to me. And I know I wasn't abducted. There was no flash of light. And like I said, no sore body parts or anything of the truth. But 100% true story. That's my time dilation story. And I suppose I could twist that into an alien encounter, but that's not what happened. But that's a true story, and that actually happened. Kind of weird, but it did. And I need a drink after that one. Needless to say, when I got home, I was rather distressed about that. So there's 9 of you here. A show of hands. 1, if you believe we are not alone, and 2, if you believe we are alone, if you would mind, please. Just curious what we think. Come on, don't be shy. Ah, everyone's chicken. Don't worry, I told you my reptilian neighbors are sleeping. They won't hear you. Well, okay, on another night, on another note, has anybody or does anybody know of somebody, a friend, a relative, somebody that has had an interesting experience that they think may have involved extraterrestrial life? And no, Irving, your El Cortez ghost does not count, because that's a topic for another discussion when we talk about ghosts. I guess we're all pretty lucky. We haven't done that, and nobody's responded. They don't think. So I'm gonna take that to mean that most people probably think that there's something there, and that we haven't contacted it yet, or it hasn't contacted us, or you're a firm believer that we're being controlled by aliens, and our current politicians don't count, because they're both in the United States and in Canada. We have too stupid politicians to be of any kind of intelligent life that manage to travel the vast reaches of space. I I think I pointed out before, I don't have a very high opinion of politicians. They could be aliens, I suppose. So hopefully everybody is enjoying their Sunday. I looked and I did not see any NFL football that I cared to really watch today. So I thought, you know what, I want to try to do this live. And I do thank everyone who did make a comment, because this is working fine now. And I do not know, Slow, I don't know why it didn't work before. So what we are going to do, you and I, the next time we do a dual stream, you will invite me just to see if that makes any difference. It shouldn't, and I still don't know. It, like as you suggested, it might just be nothing more than a glitch. Um, but yes, I'm glad to see that the comments are here. Although you've all gotten quiet here, but there's still 9 of you coming in, so I will thank, and 7 likes. Thank you very much. And thank you very much. You're always welcome to lurk. Although I would love any kind of comments or questions or something. I try to keep the things moving along. I think that's my job. I think that's my job as a content creator, especially on a live stream. I have been very careful to have benign music playing in the background so I don't have to worry about a copyright strike. Can you believe, okay, my first test, the very when I very first came on, there was a song from one of my favorite old groups, Yes, that was recognized by YouTube, and they gave me a warning, and they wouldn't let me go live until I deleted that test. So I deleted it, and everything is fine. And after that, I thought, no, I'm not going to worry about songs like that. So interesting thing. Live and learn. It's a very very interesting thing. Again, and there seems to be enough background light in here. I'm fine. I don't have to. Oh, there. I'm just trying my light. No, I don't need that. I don't need that. I can go with just whatever the ambient light that's in here. So, you know what? Since that doesn't seem to be much of a topic, anybody have any suggestions about what we should talk about the next time I try this? Because I've got a bunch of ideas and a bunch of things that I thought I might think. I was certainly hoping that some of you might have had some interesting stories or even some suggestions, but that's okay. No rules. Like I said, we can talk about anything, and we certainly hope to. That's I'm already happy that as many of you have shown up to listen to me talk. I hope I'm not boring you um, too much, and. I know, Irving, you're probably on the road. You left this morning, did you not? So if you're just listening, safe travels, and hopefully you don't have to go through the devastated part of the country with Hurricane Helene. Yeah, that turned out to be not a very nice thing. So I think you got lucky, Slow. There's a lot of I saw a lot of stuff in Western North Carolina, huge damage. So yeah, it was not a nice thing at all. And apparently there is another storm that is developing that is supposed to come whacking the Gulf sometime next week. So here we are into hurricane season. Just kind of dull and dreary here up where I am. Cognac certainly helps a live stream. At least I think so. Well, okay, then you know what? I will throw a couple of topics. There's some things that I do want to talk about. I know one of the things that I am going to talk about, and it's either going to happen, well, probably going to happen before I visit Las Vegas later next month, and that is talking about good old Las Vegas, one of my favorite vacation spots. And the topic of conversation is going to be really, really simple. Um, why has Vegas changed? Because there's no doubt that it has changed. It's changed for the citizens, it's changed for the tourists. I have my thoughts about that, and that's going to be a topic for a future time. Today's topic is: are we alone in the universe? Is there intelligent life out there? And anything meeting with that, we're certainly trying to find things. A lot of, as I said in the beginning, my own personal feelings are that we are not alone in the universe. But having said that, I don't believe that we are regularly visited by aliens. I think somewhere I saw a stat years ago that there was something like 900 and something um, considered legit sightings worldwide every year. Now, when you think about that, that's incredible. So even if you take 90% of those and say, nah, that's kind of bogus, you're still talking about 100 of these sightings every year. And that's an awful lot of activity interacting with this planet without some bona fide hardcore, evidence. I suppose Tom, is anybody watching the Netflix series, the Three Body Problem? I just finished that series on Netflix, and it was recommended to me, and that kind of touches upon this sort of thing. It's not bad, not bad. It's worth checking it out if you haven't. Um, there's one part in there where there are aliens, of course, in this series, and they kind of refer to humans in, shall we say, a less than complimentary sort of a status. So, well, I wish I had more stories. I don't. I have to wait till I have a topic that I have more. I was proud of myself that I actually had two stories that were sort of kind of related. But you know what? This is still fun. I'm very glad, like I said, that this stuff is working. I am going to probably wrap this up, make this a short live. You know what? I appreciate everybody that came in. Thank you very much for this. It's always spontaneous. I'm still experimenting and learning this whole thing about pre-scheduling. I'd like to pre-schedule. I'm going to think about, I mean, I would really appreciate if you guys have a topic that you want to touch base upon. As I said in my first test, I'll try to, try to keep the conversation going as best I can. If it's something that I know something about, great. And if it's something I know very little about, then my job will be to try and ask proper questions, and I'll rely on you guys to, provide the information. The whole point of this is that we are either going to be doing one of two things. We're either going to be learning or teaching. Either one is fine, and promoting our kind of relative knowledge. So I want to thank everyone for coming in, really from the bottom of my heart. And I hope you all have a wonderful rest of Sunday, wherever you are, if it's evening or still morning. And yeah, enjoy and have a great upcoming week. And we'll touch base again soon. And who knows what we'll talk about. But the Vegas conversation is coming sometime in there, because I'm really, really curious. I know a lot of you are Vegas visitors. Some of you watching are Vegas locals. So, anything is possible here. And that I'm very curious to get your thoughts. So again, thanks everyone. Have a great time, and catch you later.